is
Jose
blank.
Omar Munoz Mendez.
Jose Omar,
Yes, sir.
and then the last names.
Munoz Mendez.
All right. The charge.
It's DWI with BAC 0.15 or higher.
The date of the offense.
March 11th, 2020.
Coming up on an anniversary. Excuse me. All right. Mr. Torres, is your client prepared to enter a plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which obviously means there's been an agreement, a plea agreement. All right. First of all, Ms. Abrams, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that in this proceeding you will accurately translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English? Thank you. You may put your hand down. Now, Mr. Jose Omar Munoz Mendez, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that in this proceeding, the information and responses you submit will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sí, señor juez.
You may put your hand down. Mr. Munoz Mendez, are you the same Jose Omar Munoz Mendez that was charged with the offense of driving while intoxicated with a blood alcohol level of 0.15 or higher, alleged to have occurred on March the 11th, 2020? Are you that person? Like I always say, to err is human, forgive divine.
Judge, let me check on the client, Judge. If it's frozen, do you want me to pop back in and pop back out?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Caitlin.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well.
Good. Are you happy it's almost Friday?
It's Friday Eve.
It is.
Looks like you're in good spirits.
Yes, I'm very excited for the weekend.
What's going on this weekend?
I have my sister and brother-in-law coming into town.
And where do they live?
They live in Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
excited.
They're going to drive that whole long, what, 280 miles?
Right.
More or less?
Not that long.
What is it, more or less?
I don't know actually. It's about 2.5 hours, I guess. Maybe 3.
Is it less than 200? You don't really know, huh?
No.
Testing.
197 miles, Your Honor.
All right.
By the most direct route.
I'll wait for Mr. Torres to join us. All right, Efrain. All right. Mr. Munoz Mendez, I had asked you a question. Are you the same Jose Omar Munoz Mendez that was alleged to have committed a DWI with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher on or about March the 11th, 2020. Are you that person?
Sí, señor juez.
Thank you. As you are aware, and the court is aware, you do not speak English fluently, and we have a certified translator, Arlene Abrams. She has been sworn to interpret for you. Do you understand?
Entiendo eso, señor.
All right. Before we proceed, I need to discuss with you some basic constitutional rights that you have. And because you are entering a plea, you obviously will be waiving or giving up those constitutional rights and protections. First of all, you have the right to remain silent. That means you do not have to say anything. You don't have to answer questions. You don't have to submit paperwork that has your signature, especially papers that admit or confess to wrongdoing. Do you understand you have that right?
Sí, señor juez.
And in this particular case, as in all criminal cases, you have the right to demand that this proceeding be held in a public courtroom. Because of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, we're not having hearings at this time in a public courtroom. We're doing them by video conference. And it's my understanding that that has been explained to you and you agreed to do this by video conference. Is that correct?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. In addition, you have a right to have a jury trial. You have a right to confront witnesses. That is, any witness who would testify if you had a trial, you or your attorney could ask questions, could challenge them. That's called confrontation of witnesses. You also have a right that's called the right to appeal. That right basically means that you or your attorney could ask a higher court to review this particular hearing. The record on it is being made by Ms. Kayleen Rivera. You could demand that a higher court review that record and the evidence for whatever challenge you wanted to make. But again, it's my understanding that you are knowingly and freely and voluntarily giving up the rights we just talked about. Is that correct?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. These rights will be repeated several times in this proceeding. And in particular, we're talking about the fact that these rights are in writing also because they're that important. Do you understand? I think he froze again. Efrain?
I'll check on him, Judge.
We're not playing 1, 2, 3 red light, are we? By the way, are you guys aware of, he's not with us right now, Patty, we'll have to wait. Are y'all aware of this technology where you can take a photo and, for example, we had one of my dad from years ago, and my son makes him move and move his eyes, move his head, and he smiles from an old photo that's obviously a still.
I've seen a few examples of those, sir.
I was just totally amazed. My son showed it to us. It's in our computer right now. We have some of our grandchildren and an old one of my dad, an old photo of my mom when she was a youngster, and my mother-in-law. So, and they even did it to me when I was a kid in grade school. It's just amazing. Kayleen, are you aware of that?
Yes, sir. In fact, I just downloaded the app to enter all the information but I just have barely gotten started on it.
Yeah, just amazing.
It sure is.
What's that little movie series where these kids fly around and they learn witchcraft and all this other stuff?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, yeah.
Oh,
You in the Harry Potter series, you see photos on the wall and stuff, and they're moving around and doing all kinds of stuff. And as soon as I saw that, I said, "Holy mackerel! Look at this." Efrain, what's going on? What is Kayleen? What is my favorite expression, or one of my favorite expressions? To really screw up, you need a computer. And that's what we're looking at right now.
a computer with a bad wireless connection.
Yep.
Does that work?
Sí, señora.
There he is. Ya regresaste. You're back,
Yeah.
huh? Now, Kayleen, where were we? We were about to ask about
You had just mentioned that these rights are in writing, and you will also go over them orally.
all right. Mr. Jose Omar Munoz Mendez, the rights that I talked about will be repeated in writing, and I'll be asking you about them. They're very important. That's why it's necessary to do that. Is that understood?
Sí, señor.
Thank you. All right. Now, another right, we talked about the right to have this in public. This is being put on YouTube, which is a system that shows the video conference all over the world, where anybody who wants to tune in can see you, the staff, Ms. Abrams, everybody, Mr. Edelman, your attorney, Mr. Torres, and myself. So do you understand that?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. We talked about the right to have this in public. The state has a right to demand that this hearing be held in public also. And they have signed a document that consents, that agrees to hold this proceeding in by video conference. You're being shown that right now. Can you see that on the computer?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. At the top is information that will be repeated in all the documents that we're going to be dealing with. It says, and that top part will be repeated, it says, cause number 635297, the state of Texas versus Jose Omar Munoz Mendez, in County Court at Law Number 5, Bexar County, Texas. Now, you'll notice that this has been signed by Mr. Randall Jeffries. They agree that we'll do this as we are doing. And it's a formality, but I needed to cover that. Do you understand that?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. The next document is a document that, again, at the top, it repeats the information. It identifies you in the court. Then the title of this document is Discovery Acknowledgement. This talks about a law. It's called Article 39.14 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. This particular document is required by law, showing that you and your attorney have been given access to all the information and documents that are first required by law, but also that they are necessary for you to make an informed and intelligent decision. Did you see that? Did you review this document with your lawyer?
Sí, señor juez.
You'll notice that it is signed by the Assistant District Attorney, Mr. Jeffries, and by your attorney, Efrain Torres Jr. I will be signing that myself. Another document is now being shown to you. It's called Defendant's Consent to Video Conference. We just did that a while ago verbally, orally, and this one has your signature saying that you consent and agree to do this proceeding by video conference. Do you see your signature?
Sí, señor juez.
Thank you. The following document is called, it has again the information at the top. It's called Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions. Did you review this carefully with your attorney?
Sí, señor juez.
Do you have any questions about it?
No, señor juez.
All right. This has 3 sentences at the top. The first one says that you're giving up the right to have me read to you, word for word, the document that accuses you of violating the law. And you're telling me I don't need to read it to you. The second sentence says that you know and understand that you are charged with DWI with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. It is commonly referred to as a charge of being extremely intoxicated while you were driving in a public place. Then there is a declaration. You say that you hereby enter a plea of nolo contendere to the charge of DWI. Now, that tells me right away that we're going to have a motion by the state to waive or give up the enhancement, meaning the 0.15 or higher, are giving up and not proceeding on the extreme intoxication part. Did you see and understand those portions that I have just read to you?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. The rest of the document is essentially divided into 15 numbered parts. The very first one says that you know and understand that you can be punished for DWI first, not DWI extreme, but DWI first. You can be punished by a fine from $0 to $2,000 in jail, 72 hours to 180 days in jail. Did you see and understand that, number one?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. Number two is critically important. It repeats, like I told you earlier, that we're doing this in writing several times. This one talks about the right to a jury trial, a right to cross-examine witnesses, and a right to remain silent. And number two says that you are freely and voluntarily giving that up. Is that correct?
Sí, señor.
Number three, the question there is, have you ever had mental health problems?
No, señor juez.
Have you ever been given or taken mental health medications?
No, señor juez.
All right. All these paragraphs, I'm reviewing a little bit, not word for word, but you have reviewed this with your attorney. And number 4 talks about your plea of nolo contendere. You're telling me there, after reviewing this with your attorney, you're telling the court that you are entering a plea of nolo contendere because you have reviewed the evidence and information and the advice of your attorney, and you're telling me that you think it's in your best interest to plead nolo contendere. Is that correct?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. Have you ever, number 5, have you ever been involved in the sex offender registration program?
No, señor juez.
Tells me that you understand that you have made a deal with the state, but it is up to me as the judge. I have the authority and the responsibility to decide if I accept your deal or I reject it. I also have the right to give you any punishment in the range of punishment, even if it's higher or heavier than what you agreed to. 6 and 7 tell us that you understand that if I reject your deal, or if I give you a punishment heavier than what you agreed to, then you could start over again, withdraw this plea, and start over without any of what you've said now or anything that you've signed up to now being used against you. And in addition, number 7 says that if I give you the punishment you agreed to or lighter, then you will not have a right of appeal unless there's been motions filed and ruled on prior to this hearing. Did you go over 6 and 7 with your attorney?
Sí, señor juez.
All right, number 8, are you at this time a U.S. citizen?
No, señor juez.
All right. Have you talked to or been given advice or information by someone that's an expert regarding what kind of impact or consequences may result for you as a result of these charges? And I'm referring to immigration status or immigration deportability.
Sí, señor juez. Mi abogado Rudy
And
Castillo.
who is it that? All right, so you have an immigration attorney, Mr. Castillo, besides Efraín Torres on this matter. Is that correct?
Sí, señor juez. Estoy en proceso
Number
de
9.
mi residencia.
Not you. Number 9 does not apply to you. That basically is a family violence issue. Neither does number 10. Is the gentleman offered deferred adjudication, Mr. Edelman?
He is, sir.
All right. Number 11 talks about the details of deferred adjudication, that if you live up to 100% of the conditions, everything will be fine. But if you violate the conditions, if you refuse or fail to live up to 100% of the conditions, then the state can ask me to bring you in on a hearing. And if the evidence supports it, we can add an adjudication of guilt, it's called. In other words, find you guilty. The agreement you made will not find you guilty. If I approve it, and I'll tell you now, I will approve it. Do you understand that that can result as if you do not live up to 100% of the conditions of deferred adjudication?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. Number 12, 13, 14. Number 15, again, because you reviewed this with your attorney and you've signed this, it is part of the record that you're giving up or waiving the right to a risk and needs assessment. Did you discuss this with your attorney, and is this an accurate statement that I just made?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. Scroll. You did sign that, so did your attorney, is that correct?
Sí, señor juez.
All right, the next document, this one specifically talks about the right of appeal. I talked to you about that earlier. This document is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. This is something where I, as the judge, certify that. If you look at, there's a stack of vertical stack of little boxes, and next to each one, there's a statement. The 5th one will be checkmarked. That one that's at the top there right now, it says, I declare that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Sí, señor juez.
And you did sign it saying that you understand it. Is that correct?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. The next document is probably the only, this one is the one that has your information at the top again. This one says application for deferred adjudication. The deferred adjudication, as probably has been explained to you, and I'm sure it has been, is an agreement where I will not find you guilty. Instead, I will basically postpone any decision on that. And if you live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision, then this case gets dismissed and you're not convicted of the charge of DWI first. Do you understand that?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. Now, this document is the only one that doesn't have that introductory information because this is your information. Did you put only true and accurate information in this document, the personal data sheet?
Sí, señor juez.
I will remind you that you're under oath, and I will ask you, what do you do as being self-employed?
Construcción, señor juez.
All right. And what do you, let's see, you have 3 references here. These are all residents of San Antonio, besides your wife. You have your father-in-law and your mother-in-law. All right.
Sí, señor juez.
Now, I don't know who put this in, but race, there's no such thing as a Mexican race. I want y'all to correct that. Is Ms. Flores with us, Patty? I said, in this form, it says race and it has Mexican.
No,
There
Judge, Ms. Luna's not with us. I think that was the
Hispana,
entry he made. He made that entry.
All right, well, we need to correct that. The race is white. Ethnicity is Hispanic or Mexican. You have 3 children, Mr. Munoz Mendez. What are their ages?
Dos. Tengo dos hijas.
Okay,
De 3
okay.
años
How old are the daughters?
a 3 años y 1 año.
All right. Now you have a vehicle, and
Sí,
I need to know what
señor
your,
juez.
again, let me remind you, under oath, I need to know what is your total income per month?
Sí. A mes, dependiendo cómo esté el trabajo, señor juez, pero unos 2,000 o 1,800, dependiendo del trabajo.
Does your wife work outside your house?
No, señor juez.
All right. We're showing you another document. This one says plea agreement. This is the agreement wherein you decided that you're going to plead no contest. I will be marking this, by the way, at the top, it has a little bit different information. It just has your name and case number, but it does not have the court number. But this is the plea agreement that you have made with the state and that I will be approving. I will be marking the first box that says that we've talked to you about the right to remain silent and other rights. Then I'll be marking the box that says defendant is not a U.S. citizen. Then I'll be marking the 3 boxes inside the dotted rectangle. Compliance with Padilla versus Kentucky. Now, What is Mr. Castillo's first name? Your immigration lawyer. Efrain, you can jump in if you know.
Rudy,
Again,
Rudy.
Rudy
Rudy Castillo.
Rudy like Rodolfo, is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Rudy Castillo. All right. The next section of this document, it says defendant's acknowledgements. It's got 5 boxes vertically aligned and each one has a declaration. Did you check each one of these off yourself or your attorney, Mr. Munoz Mendez?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. To the charge of DWI first, how do you plead, sir?
No me opongo, señor juez.
All right. For the record, the state has made a motion to waive the enhancement of extreme intoxication. Is there an objection from defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, then we'll have to mark this section, Patty. Motion granted. It's at the very bottom of this section. All right, now you have pled no contest, nolo contendere. I find that there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but because I am honoring the agreement that you have made, I am not finding you guilty. I am granting you 18 months of deferred adjudication. You will be assessed an $800 fine. If you live up to 100% of the conditions correctly and timely, then you'll only have to pay half of that, which is $400. You will perform 72 hours of community service restitution. You will, in good faith, enroll in and complete a DWI education program, DWI Victim Impact Panel. You will submit to a TAP evaluation and observe the recommendations. For 9 months, you'll have ignition interlock on your vehicle. And during the entire period, the whole period of deferred adjudication or supervision, you will not drink any alcohol at all. Is that understood?
Sí, señor juez.
All right. Your supervisory fee, I will set at the minimum, which is $25 per month. Questions, Mr. Edelman?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
I'm listening.
on behalf of Mr. Munoz, he has completed his DWI education course and his victim impact panel. So we would ask that he have an opportunity to get credit for that, Judge. Additionally,
If I can give me that again, the victim impact panel
yes, Judge, and
the
the
DWI court education,
correct, Judge.
and as an officer of the court, you're providing me with the proof of that?
Yes, Judge. I can email it to Mr. Edelman, and I can also have Mr. Munoz provide it to his probation officer.
Very good. Then I will, as in accordance with that statement by defense, I will give him credit for completion of those 2 parts of the requirements of supervision.
Additionally, Judge, as Mr. Munoz mentioned, his work schedule is off and on depending on a lot of factors like weather. So he is wanting to ask the court if it would be possible to pay out those community service hours in lieu of having to do them.
Well, my impression was that he was indigent.
Correct, Your Honor. But he's hopeful that throughout this duration of probation, he can work, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday or Monday or Friday, and try to save up as opposed to trying to do those hours and miss out on work.
Mr. Torres, I'm going to put you in breakout with Mr. Munoz Mendez. What I'm hearing gives me reason for concern that when he told me he's making a 1,800 to 2,000 a month, and he's got a automobile and 2 daughters and a wife that he's supporting, it doesn't sound like his estimate of income is accurate. I'm gonna put you in breakout for 3 minutes. I want to know if that is under oath an accurate statement by the defendant.
Okay.
And then I'll consider whether we'll authorize him to pay or not.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Patricia, put him in breakout for about 3 minutes.
It's breakout room 1.
Is the person that needs a discussion of bond on board already? Well, they'll be on the other.
Correct. Yes, sir. We have to exit this.
Okay.
Patty, I just need to talk to him. Or Judge, I just need to talk to Mr. Munoz. Yeah, Mr. Mendez, yes. After we're done. Thank you.
Mr. Edelman, it would seem to me that if all you're making is 2,000 a month, you're barely making it.
That would seem to be the case, Your Honor, but it also seems to me that Mr. Mendez's statement to the court is an estimate of an average, and he can have months in which he does better than average, and he can have months in which he does worse than average. And so if he does better than average and wants to pay off his community service hours rather than working him, I don't see any inherent problem in giving him that flexibility. However, it should be pointed out that for 18 months of deferred adjudication, 72 hours of community service, I believe comes out to 4 hours per month. Assuming that he works them in monthly increments.
I hear you.
Your Honor, I briefly heard what Mr. Edelman mentioned, Judge, but he is correct. I spoke to the client, and he has said,
a chance, Mr. Edelman, try to get Mr. Yanta or whomever.
I'm sorry, sir?
If we have a chance, we need to maybe amend this form on the hours of CSR. I'd like to have inclusion in there of to be performed in quarters. That is a quarter of supervision, a quarter of performance of the hours, 50%, 50%, 3/4, etc. I don't like letting people loose and then at the end of the probation, they've not done any of their hours and they're either going to try to BS the court or we'll have to look at extension. So anyway, you hear what I'm saying more or less?
I do, Your Honor. I don't believe that at this point the form can be amended. It would need to either be printed out and a physical annotation put onto it, or we would need to cancel this document and send a different one with the court's specific directive included in it.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about it some more. All right, Mr. Torres.
yes, Judge, I spoke to the client, and he is basically telling me that what he mentioned to you is yes, Judge, can you hear me?
Your Honor, I can hear Mr. Torres. Can the court hear Mr. Torres?
I don't hear. How about Mr. Munoz Mendez? Is he back?
He should be back,
His,
Judge.
his microphone is muted, Your Honor. He should be back in the meeting. Unfortunately, I can see him, but I can't hear him.
Okay.
All right, Arlene? All right.
Sí, sí.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Munoz Mendez, do you have a
Sí, señor juez.
more accurate estimation of what your income is per month?
Judge,
Por lo que puedo ganar más al mes, si hay buen trabajo, son como 2,800 a 3,000. Y cuando está un poco despacio, pues es lo que gano, 2,000 o 2,800. Señor juez.
All right, so it'd be more accurate to say that you make on a regular average, probably more like the minimum of 2,500.
Sí, señor juez.
All right. I will authorize the donation in lieu of CSR hours at a rate of $8 an hour for however many hours he wants to donate. I will
Sí,
suggest
señor juez.
and recommend that the donation be to the Gabriel Project, but he has an option of the San Antonio Food Bank.
Ok, señor juez.
All right.
Your Honor, may I add one more thing?
Yes, sir.
And just for the record, Judge, Mr. Munoz Mendez is represented by Rodolfo Castillo on his immigration matter. I did receive a Padilla letter, Judge. And with that being said, he was warned about the consequences of moving forward with the plea in regards to his pending residency, as well as future consequences as trying to become a U.S. citizen. And he is aware of those consequences, Judge. I did get a Padilla letter, and so he still wishes to move forward.
Very good. All right. Then that'll be the court's order. We'll make those notations. Mr. Ailman, any other question?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Torres,
Yes, Your Honor.
any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then that'll conclude this matter, except that